Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters. A few years ago, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates were both giving a lecture at the University of Washington. And one of the students in the audience asked Warren Buffett, "What do you think has made you and Bill Gates so successful?" Warren Buffett looked back at the student and also looked at the entire audience and said, "Every one of you can do what I have done. Every one of you can do what I have done and much more. Some of you will, and some of you won't. Those who won't, it will be because you allowed yourself to get in your own way, not because the world won't grant you what you want." I agree with what Warren Buffett said. We all get in our own way. I get in my own way. Everybody here gets in their own way. And I think that once we're able to identify how we get in our own way, we're much more empowered, we're much more resourceful, and able to rise above it. So, fellow Toastmasters, without further ado, I want to introduce you to my little friend. This is the gremlin. I'll stand him up. This is the gremlin. So what is the gremlin? You see it? The gremlin is your inner critic. Is your inner critic. It is that voice, that incessant voice that says you can't, you mustn't, you won't, you shouldn't. It stops you from doing what you really want to do. It keeps you playing small, and if you allow it to, it will run rampant in your life. It is the voice of habit, of conditioning, of doing things just because you're familiar with it, and it doesn't want you to change. It wants you to stay in the status quo, and it wants you to play safe. And actually, that's a good intent, to keep you safe. But it's really good when you were a kid and you needed to get out of the way of a car, and your mom pulled you over, and oh, that's the gremlin, but it's flight or fight at that point. But for most of the things that we do in life, we don't need that, but we still do it. So the gremlin has a really interesting kind of voice. And you know what? It's working right now in this room, right now in my voice, in my head. You want to hear what it's saying? Are you interested? It's saying, "Phil." Let me look at it. It's saying, "What are you doing up there? Are you crazy? You know you're not a public speaker. Do you know how many times you have said but, so, and? You're one of the biggest culprits. Where's the yacht counter? She's going to have a field day with you. Oh, and that evaluator? Oh my God, he's going to rip you to shreds. You just better sit down and just go out, just get out. Just get out of the room, Phil." So, thank you. There it goes again. And you see, you just said that word. I'm not going to repeat it. So I look at the gremlin. I look at that gremlin. Take a breath. And I notice it. I simply just notice it. By noticing it, wow, it really diffuses a lot of that chatter. It diffuses it. And as I breathe, I center myself. I'm back to myself. And I allow the light of who I really am shine on that gremlin. See, I can't fight with it. Once I fight with it, it's over. It's like you're giving it power. You're engaging with it. You're fighting with it. And what you resist persists. So, there I go. Thank you, Phil. You did it again. I know how to diminish that gremlin, and so do you. It's really, if you name that gremlin, you could tame it. If you really notice it, and you remember who you are and what you want to do. Why am I here with you today? To tell you about the gremlin, to tell you how it works in your life, and if you're not aware of it, how it takes over. And that's more important than the gremlin wanting me to stay away and not talk to you. My job here is more important than what that gremlin has to say to you, to me. We can tame that gremlin. And I'm going to give you a really interesting example of the gremlin running rampant. There was a movie called A Beautiful Mind. Most of you probably saw it with Russell Crowe. He is a brilliant mathematician in that movie. He has a lot to offer to the university, to the students, to the world. But he keeps hearing these delusional voices that say, that are paranoid, that are about conspiracy, that try to get him away from his purpose. And he runs rampant with that gremlin. It takes over. It almost destroys him. It puts him in a mental hospital, destroys his family. He realizes in the movie, you see how he gains more control. He remembers who he is and what he's doing. And he starts to diminish that voice of the gremlin. By the end of the movie, what's really interesting is it stops having power over him altogether. He doesn't listen anymore. He's gotten used to not listening to it. Somebody even asks him, do those voices, are they still there, John? And he said, I don't think they care about me anymore because I got into the habit of not listening. And you see at the end, he walks right by them. They look at him and they're in amazement, and he walks right by them. That's what you can do with your gremlin. You can walk right by it. Don't give it power because it's not real. And don't fight with it. And remember who you are and that you're much bigger than that. And I want to leave you with the fact that your life is in your hands. Just as Warren Buffett said, you can accomplish anything you want if you get out of your own way. And knowing this today, my friends, maybe perhaps learning a little bit more about the gremlin will help you get out of your own way. Thanks for your time today.